All right, we are going to look at some additional things on tree views. We're going to add toggle boxes to the tree view. First of all, let's look at it running. And this is what it looks like. It's similar to episode 27. It's relatively simpler. I've got descendants here. Row 1 is the only one that's got descendants. And initially all the checkboxes are checked. If I select a row, well, you can see it in the background. It automatically selects the first row at the start. You could change that. But okay, if I select this row, it comes back and says the text in the first part is this, okay, which means grandchild 2 of row 1, child 2. This is child 2 of row 1. So I don't know if I phrased that very clearly, but that's the text that's there. And that's so-called column 0, even though it's called column 1 over here. That's so-called column 0. But anyway, over here is the checkbox, and the checkbox is coming back as a 1, indicating true. So anytime I select this is actual row selection. It's merely selecting different rows. They're bouncing around, and you're seeing the contents of the text, which is row 3 in this case, and you're seeing the value in the checkbox, which in all cases right now is true. All right, let's select this row and let's click on the box. We'll see something different because a different signal is going to go through. Now, if I click on that box, you can see, first of all, the box unchecks, and we say toggle signal received, and we give the path, and we also give the row text, which is grandchild 2 of row 1, child 2. There's the text. I didn't print out the toggle because it's visible. If I click it again, it turns on. You get another display here. So so that indicates the toggling has come through, and it's in that subroutine that it changes it turns on and turns off the checkbox. What you do with that information is, again, up to you at that point, but you know if it was checked and whether it's becoming checked or becoming unchecked. That's knowledge your program has at this point when this thing comes out. The path is used in these. It's a description of what row we're on. The first level here is what is the first top level row, and I'm on row 0, the first row. The second one is what row you're in the second level. Well, in the second level, I'm in the row number is 1, but it's the second row. There's row number 0. This is row number 1. So it's 0, 1. All right, and the next, since there's 3 of them here, you see, it's the next level, and you see it's 0, 1. So I'm in 0, 1, 1. That's the path description in the tree to get to where I am, and we use that path information. If I click down here and click on this guy's box, you see its path description is just 1 because it's a top level. There's no descendants. If I click this guy and click its box, the path is 2 because it's 0, 1, 2. It's the third row in the tree. There's no descendants. I'm not at. It doesn't tell me if there's any. There might be descendants. For example, if I click up here, it says simply. I have to click the checkbox. It says the path is simply 0. That doesn't tell me if there are descendants. It says I'm not at any descendants. All right. How do we do it? Well, first of all, we modified the Glade. The Glade is pretty much the same as before. On row 1, we have a selection here. This is all the same as before. The selection has, of course, on-select change signal. So if you change the row, we'll get on-select changed signal, and that gave the first display you saw, or indicated what row we were on. Then we have 2 columns. The first column is the same as before. The renderer is text. I don't do anything with the text because I don't assume it's not to be changed. It could be set up so that it's been changed, but I didn't. Normally you don't, I don't think. Then we get the second column. The second column has a different renderer in it. It has a toggle renderer. And the toggle renderer has a different signal on CR2 toggled. CR2 is the renderer level under row 2. So that's the signal we get when someone toggles the checkbox. How did I get that? Well, you just go in here and you say Edit. It's right-click, and you bring up the Edit screen for these columns. And so for column 2, I right-clicked. There's its name up there, and I right-clicked and I added a toggle button, a child toggle button. I added the child toggle. I'm not going to do it because I've already done it. and that gave me, whoops, that gave me the toggle button as a descendant of the second column. And I went over there and then added the signal. So that's what I changed. Instead of being a text renderer, I made it a toggle renderer, and I added the signal CR2 toggle. All right, let's look at the code. The code is very similar to before. The widgets are all the same. There's no change to the widgets. Then the pullout that we pull out of the XML file is the same as before. This code is all the same as, okay, here's where we connect the renderers to the row for purposes of the program. I don't know why it's not being done in Glade, something I don't know, but this is what I'm doing. I'm connecting CR1, the renderer, to row CX1. That's the first row. And I'm telling it it's a type text renderer. And also I'm telling it that it's the first column 0. So that's the column number, and then there's the actual pointer for the column. There's the pointer for the render. So that's how you set up a text renderer in a tree view. They're all going to be the same if they're text, unless of course you're editing it, but I haven't gotten there yet. All right, here is the second column. This is different, a little bit different anyway. There's the renderer, which we know is a toggle renderer, is being attached to the row. And with the toggle renderer, we have to tell it that it is active or not. If it's active, it means it can be modified. If it's inactive, it can't. And we also tell it that it's row 1, i.e. the second row. Row 0 up here, row 1 here. Okay, we've got a bunch of iterators like we had before, and here in comments I've displayed the structure that I'm going to create, okay, to make it a little simpler. It's all very redundant at this point. All right, here's row 1. First of all, I'm calling in for tree store, and basically I'm getting an iterator. I'm getting the iterator for the next available row. Since it's empty, it's the first row. And null means it has no parent. Okay, so I get an iterator for well, it's going to be the first row. It's a append. There's nothing in it, so it's the first row. That's the iterator. I pass the address. Notice an ampersand of the iterator. And then I put the text into column 0. And I GTK tree store set, this is the same as before, and I pass the iterator, the address of the iterator, and I pass the column number, which is column 0, and I pass the text I want to have appear there, which I want to have it say row 1. The -1 means there's nothing further, I'm passing nothing further in this function. I could pass several rows in this function. I'm not. I'm going to do them in separate calls to the function. It's clearer and not as messy. But you will see in a lot of code, if you find any code out there, that there will be, the second row might be right here. And it'll just be the pair indicating the row number and the value. So the -1 means that's all we're doing for this function. Here is the second row, i.e. row 1, row 0, row 1. And I'm passing down true, well, which means it's going to be checked. And the -1 means the same thing. It's the same function. All right, so I have done row 1, and it's going to have the phrase row 1 in the first column, and it's going to have checkboxes be checked in the second column. Okay, here is where we do a child. Now the child's going to have a parent. That's just how I know how it sticks them together. The parent is the current value of iter, which is this guy up here. All right, so we pass down as a parent the current, the one we just did, and we ask for a child pointer, and it gives, or we ask to append a child, and it'll give me a pointer for iter child1. Notice these are all addresses, ampersands. And I do the same thing, row 0, row 1, and I'm passing down the text, and I'm passing down true. And we go down another level where the parent is iter child1, and now we're asking for a new iterator for iter child2, and we do the same thing, and we keep doing it. This is the same as the previous one in many regards because child1 stays the same, but we get a new child2. and we update it and so forth. So this creates the basic, creates this kind of hierarchy in our tree store. All right, going down to some of this is very similar as before. This is on select changed. The get selection, get tree selection get selected sets the model and iter from the selection that's passed down. The selection passed down is C. Okay, so we check to see if it's false. If it's false, we return. Doesn't have any values for it. I think it's used for debugging. I don't know why it would return, wouldn't send you anything. But if it's false, we don't want to deal with it. It's only if it's not false. If it's true. So by virtue of invoking this function, get GTK tree selection get selected, I get a pointer in model and I get a value in iter. Iter is a structure. Notice I'm passing in both cases ampersand the addresses, not the value themselves. I'm passing the address of the variables or structures as they are. Okay, that's important. If you leave off the ampersand, things are not going to work. All right, get tree model get. I am actually fetching out based on the iter for column 0 the value, and that's all I'm doing. I'm not doing more on this one function. I'm just stopping it here. So I'm getting out ampersand value. What's the ampersand value? It is a pointer it is a pointer to a character string. So I pass down the address of the pointer, and the function will insert a value, a pointer, into the pointer. So when I come back, value will be a pointer to a character string, and I write it out. Signal received, column 0, %S. I put quotes around it, the backslash quotes. And I print out value. Value is pointing to a character string. So I print out a character string. Likewise, for the second column, I again pass the model, the iter. Now second column, column number 1, I pass down ampersand box. Box is a G-Boolean, if you'll notice up here. It's declared as G-Boolean. And I pass the address of the G-Boolean. The function will set the contents of box to be true or false. And I don't do anything else on this line. An extra blank in there, but it doesn't hurt anything. And then I print out box. Well, box booleans are essentially integers 0 and 1. So I print out the value in the box, and then I leave. Okay, this is the toggled. This is when someone clicks on the box, and we come down. It gives us a cell. It gives us the address of the renderer. The toggle renderer comes in as the variable cell, and it gives us the address of the path string. This is, you remember the path I printed out. Well, here's where it's coming from. And I've got some things declared up here, and we'll use them in a minute. I put some extra decorative print statements here to isolate this off so it's easier to see it on the screen. The first thing I do is I print out that I've received a signal, and I print out the path. And again, the path is in quotes, new line character, and there's the path string. Probably should have put a blank there. Anyway, the path string. That gave us that path string 0:1:1 type thing. Path string uniquely determines where in the tree we are. All right, we need to get the model. We need a model for the subsequent functions. They want a lot of stuff. We get the model by asking for the model, and we pass it down the tree TV1. That's the tree view from up above. It's a global widget. Shall I go up there and see it? There's TV1. It is the tree view, and it is global, so it's available. You can see it there. It is right up here. All right, we get the model by passing down the tree view. Model is a pointer, so we get a pointer to model actually. GTK tree model get iter from string. All right, so we have to give the model. We have to give the path string. And we pass the address of an iter, and it will fill iter in. So iter will get a value. So we get the iter. In other words, iter is going to point to the actual row that we're talking about, the one we want to play with. So we're in something got toggled. First we want to know is what row is it in. We know what column it is. There's only one thing that can be toggled, but we need to know the row, and the iter is going to give us the row, but we have to pass the path string, and we have to tell it the model. It has to know what is the structure of this thing. Here is the path string, and then the model, it uses that information to find out, well, what the iter value is. All right. GTK true model get. This is getting column 0. Again, the -1 means we're not doing anything else in this function. We could get more than one thing. We're only doing one thing. We use this up above. We pass down the model, we pass down the iter, and we pass down the column number, column 0, and we pass down the address of a pointer. Where text, if you notice up there, is a gchar type pointer. It's a pointer to text is a pointer to type gchar, which is a char pointer. Okay, so when we come back, text will be filled in with the value of a pointer that points to a string, which is the contents of the first row of the line that's been toggled. So we get the string, and here's where I print out, there's the row text. And again, I put quotes around it. We print out text. Text is a pointer. We're printing out the text from the row on which the toggle occurred. And this is mainly the function we're really interested in. We toggle stuff. The row selection there is just, curious. The toggling is where all the bit, is probably what you're really interested in. The other function could be is kind of meaningless because you get all that information here. All right, get. Whereas up here we got the text from column 0, or the first column. Here we're going to get the truth value from the second column. It's the same as above, model and iter, and we specify column 1, 0 and 1. This is the second column, and we pass down the address of a Gboolean. You notice up above, t is declared Gboolean. It's initialized to false, so we don't use the initial value. It doesn't have to be initialized to anything. But we're going to get back a value of a Boolean. I'm going to get back them. That's going to indicate true or false, indicating the box is checked is checked or unchecked. And again, the -1 means we're not doing anything further on this function. We could have done this up here, in other words. We could have added at the end. But to make it, I think it's clearer if I do it separately. But that's what the -1 means we're done now. Okay, if t is false, we make t true. Otherwise, we make it, we flip it to false. So basically, this just toggles the value in t. And you notice I didn't print it out. At this point, I should have probably printed it out, but I didn't. Okay, I have toggled t. Now I got to go put it into the display. Well, GTK tree store set, this is the same as before, and that's tree store. That's one of our pointers. It came from Glade. You'll notice it's up here, tree store. It's the name of the storage structure that's actually containing all this stuff. We give it the iter, which is where to go. We tell it the column, which is, which column to modify, and we give it the value to put in the column. Notice there's no ampersand. And -1 again, because we could put more than this into one function. It's a variable number of argument function. So that sets the checkbox to checked or unchecked depending upon the value of t. Well, the value of t will be the opposite of what it was when we came into this function. When we came into the function, whatever it was, we just flipped it. So when we go reset the box, we are it'll alter. So if it was checked, it becomes unchecked. If it's unchecked, it becomes checked. And that's all there is. So that's how it works, and you can add these to your heart's content. And they're kind of tricky. If you get the signals wrong, if you get the ampersands, leave them out. You have to follow the model fairly closely. But if you do, it does work, as you'll notice. And there's my on destroy thing, which I really don't need. And then there we are. Let's just go here. And you can see everything is happening as we were bouncing around here. And these could be, there's a lot of applications for things like this where we will indicate what attributes we want to have functional and so forth. So anyway, this is how we add toggle boxes to a tree view.